My history with this 1991 VR4 is rather unfortunate. 4 years ago, I bought the car with a completely grenaded motor with hopes of getting it back up on the road and using it as a daily driver. Given that the motor was completely bad and I could not use it as a core, I contacted a shop that is very well respected in the 3000GT community with hopes they could sell me a new one. This engine ended up being a complete dud, and thankfully they let me know that they were going to try to make things right and put a new motor in for me free of charge. This, however, if you've seen my previous videos, did not end up anywhere close to what they promised. The car sat in a field with a motor out of it for 3 years rusting, and recently I decided to make the 9-hour trip over there to pick up the car and finish it myself because I feel like that was the only way things were going to get done. In my last video, I put together a complete long block, and in this one, we're going to finish up on that process, get it mated to the transmission, and get this thing fired up for the first time in many, many years. These are all my old seals and gaskets. I did literally every one you can in the engine, so I'm going to clean up and then I'll get to the work today. Alright, I am ready to lift this up, and I was going to put it on a tire so I can go ahead and build the back of it out, but I realized I don't know where my chain is. So I got to run into town to grab one of those, but in the meantime I did a good cleaning on this, got everything kind of prepped and ready to go. I just have to tuck things out of the way. I'm waiting on transmission seals that should be here today so I can rebuild the back end of that transmission, the new one that's going to go in. And I have to replace the oil cooler because there could be some matter in there from the spun bearing, even though it was a very light bearing spin. So I want to pull this off. I have an extra one. I'm going to go ahead and flush it out because I don't know the history of that one. And then I guess it's time to start putting the backside on. And then I just have to remember where every single one of these things go. I actually have made a decent chunk of the bolts. Remembered where almost everything went. With pretty much all these brackets, they only have one way they can go on the motor, so I just tried to use my memory and kind of hold them up and then figure out where all the bolts would line up with it. And then I was like, okay, there's only one way that can go on there, so I just threw it together. But it's looking good. I'll check back in here in about an hour. So next I have to build out the clutch and flywheel and the water neck I've been talking about. This thing goes up here and it's real complicated, bunch of things going every which way. There's 2 water jackets here and then one right here from the water pump, and then all these lines are what run to the turbos. So I've got the octopus looking thing on right here. So I'm connecting all the water jackets. These turbos are just like most, they're water cooled, and then oil runs through the bearing as well too. So I got these ones on. I just need to go find a couple more crush washers for the front. See where they go on, like right there's the hole, and the other one's back over here with this banjo bolt. And then after that I just have to find a hose that'll connect here because it was ripped, and then we're gonna put this on. Look it up. Got just one more surprise for my friend. Which one is it? This one right here. Thanks, guy. I also cannot just recrimp it and put it back in because this is where it's supposed to go, and you'll see that's stretched as tight as it can. Not happening. So yet again, new wire set, I guess. I believe that's all she wrote. So this is actually my family's lake house. I come up here usually every weekend or so, so I'm gonna try to gather some parts this week, get up here next weekend and get the car running. Just need to do the transmission seals, get the axles in there, flush the oil cooler, and then everything goes back together. And this too. Forgot about that guy. All right, it's a new day and a new problem to tackle. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a problem. It's pretty standard. I have to replace all the seals on this transmission I bought. I cleaned it up, not on the inside. It looks a lot better on the outside. But bought this off of a pretty trustworthy guy who said it was good. If not, he said he'd take it back. Who knows if that's true, but I have to replace these 4 seals. This is $139 worth of parts right here. Most things for this car haven't been very expensive yet, but that one definitely was. And this transmission actually is too, because they fail like crazy. They have synchro problems and output shaft problems. But next up, I'm gonna pull these seals off and then pop those in. And I think next up is mating the trans. This seal was hard as hell to get in there, and I think it's just because there's not really any place for you to kind of grip onto to push it down, because this is kind of floppy and there's just this tiny little lip right there and everything just tried to slip off of it. Then back up here, I'm afraid to take this off because there's obviously something weird going on right here, but that is where this seal sits, so I want to do it right. I'm going to pull that off, and hopefully there's not like a crack or something and it's just the seal was bad and somebody was lazy. I just decided to power the car up for the first time. I was charging the battery that still had some voltage in it somehow after all that time. I'm gonna flick the headlights on, see if the... All right, pop-ups still work. Oh man. This worked before. These are very expensive right here, and these lights are out. Man, that sucks. That was perfectly fine earlier, but the radio seems to be solid. I absolutely love this radio. It has a cassette thing so I can listen to music still, but it has all these equalizers and stuff on it. It looks like the front right side of this is also out. It's just like this whole section. That's weird because these are 2 separate units. All the gauges look all right. That's a start at least. Let's see if the windows go down. I've been wanting to put these down. All right. That way I can kind of reach in a little bit easier while I'm working on stuff. Wow, that's shocking. Windows. Well, the mirrors have stopped working. Oh, just the driver's side, I guess. All this was working before, so that kind of sucks. All right. Anything else? Wow, it's good to see this thing come back to life. That's awesome. This display is so cool. It's like the little cockpit shape and everything. This has a CD player in it as well. And you have your active aero button, you have an active suspension button up here, and you also have active exhaust. And cruise control, which is just insane for a car from 1991. You have all the buttons on the wheel. Like, you don't really get that anywhere at this time. I did notice that all these buttons up here I think are dead, which kind of sucks. Oh, I forgot the antenna rises up too. Okay, never mind, the buttons aren't dead, it's just the lights. So it looks like I do have a functional radio still. That's pretty cool. Here's the antenna, awesome. Check the taillights. Hi kitties. Hello. Okay. All right, let's check fogs. Awesome. Man, cars used to be so much cooler. Also, watch down here. It has active front and rear aero. Let's see if this spoiler in the front comes down when I press the button. I won't know if that works until I check the video, but I know the rear wing isn't working. Either way, still pretty cool. Small issue on the throwout bearing. This is the one I was sent. This is what comes off the car. That thing just slides right through there, so this is actually wide enough to make contact this way. But when I built the car originally, before it went off to the guy, this was brand new, along with a brand new clutch. So all it's done is a couple years of sitting, and I'm just gonna hope that that is good. That should be fine. Feels perfectly free, although it just doesn't look amazing. Okay, pull out that guy. I just have to find the bolts for this. No clue where they are. No clue if I even have them. And then I think I can try to muscle this thing on. So I seem to only have 4 of these bolts, maybe 5. I don't think that one's long enough. So I'm gonna put the 4 of them in. This is the same thread pitch, so I'll just go to the store, see if I can find any others. But in the meantime, I'm gonna lift this on. Working on a hanging engine always scares the hell out of me, but I have to get these brackets on there. They kind of support the engine and transmission. There's one on each side. Can't remember how they go, but I held this up and it fits perfectly, so I'm assuming that's right. That's kind of how I've been assembling this entire thing. Okay, here's the part I need to start paying attention and counting on my bolts for, because the engine mounting system in this car is kind of wonky, honestly. So these are easy. These go through the front mount, or that would be the front engine mount and the rear engine mount. And you have just kind of standard mounts for these guys. And then back here, this one goes right here and bolts through the frame of the car. And then you have to put that on after you put the engine in, though, because this is the bracket that sits on the transmission that slides into that. And this, if you're trying to drop it in with the engine and trans in at the same time, will kind of hit that side wall. So that has to stay out, but then I have to make sure I have all my bolts ready to get that in there really quick. And there's 2 of them missing. There's this massive bolt that kind of holds that in. Need to go find 2 of those. I'm also conveniently missing a transfer case bolt, and I'm pretty sure it's the same thread, so I'll just find one that's a little bit longer for that. And then this one's the weirdest one of them all. So this sits on a bracket that's mounted right here, and it slides on through all of these 3, but you have to wait again until you get the engine in. You basically do the front and the rear mount, and then you sit here and you slide this on down those exposed bolts. And then this, if you can see these studs right there and there, has to slide through. You bolt this into that side, and then you bolt that side on. So it's kind of a 1, 2, 3 step system, and I'm missing quite a few of these bolts. So another trip to the hardware store. Hopefully this will be the last, but I'm sure it won't. And I'll meet you back in a couple minutes. And releasing the tension after you've just installed an engine is like the most satisfying thing ever. Just seeing it sit there under its own weight. Four years in the making here. Whew. Now I need to locate a set of plug wires before I can put the plenum on, and then start buttoning all these 10,000 complicated systems up. It's in. Lots and lots and lots of work to do still, but that is very satisfying, just getting this thing to kind of sit in its home in the place it's been missing for many, many years. On to the next step. Got a lot to do. I knew I was forgetting something when it came to the trickiness of the engine mounting, and I had this bolted up first and then completely forgot that I could not get to these bolts down here. So these have to go in first, then you slide that in, and then you're good to go. So next up, I just got to start hooking up all the systems. I just did the AC down there, not easy to get to, the alternator, and there's like brackets to hold on brackets with this car. I mean, it's just brackets on top of brackets, but this is kind of what I'm dealing with. Like a lot of stuff will end like this harness comes up, and so it obviously goes here, and then there's this bracket, and it's like, well, where does this go? And then you look over here, and it's like, oh, it probably goes there. So I'm just doing a lot of guesswork, kind of like that, but so far it's working out, and I've only had to backtrack one time. A bunch of brake fluid seems to have leaked by the slave cylinder, so there's another casualty of sitting outside. I'll just have to go, man, this might be the only thing holding me back from driving it in the next couple days. I'm honestly pretty embarrassed at the way this harness looks, so once I get it running, I think this will be the first thing I tackle, is just going through this thing and cleaning it up. But I know that sits there. These all go to those connectors right there. And then it has to be held down. That way I can throw my shifter cables. And then on the slave cylinder, I cleaned it out really good, and it seems to be holding pressure when I press the clutch down. So I'm just going to be hopeful that that works, and I'm going to order one in the meantime. A local-ish, hour away, maybe drive guy just saved my life with that half shaft, and he came in clutch with these plug wires too. He had a bunch extra laying around. Super cool car, by the way, if you ever watch this video. So next thing I think I have to do is throw this plenum on over here, and then all the rest of the work is just like intercooler piping, connecting wires, and then I think I have to starter on the bottom, and then I have to bolt up power steering and serpentine belts. So that's not that much in the grand scheme of things, at least to get it started, and then we'll work on the driveline. This intake had to have sat outside because it's got like pitting and rust all over it, so I'm going to clean it up the best I can. If you ever want to see what 90s vacuum hell looks like, take a look at this. My God, there's vacuum lines everywhere. And the best diagram I have is the one that's on the hood. Not very straightforward, but I'm going to go for it. It's also just pretty sad looking down here and seeing all the surface rust and whatnot. All that will be cleaned up and shouldn't be that hard to do, but this thing was like shiny before it left my hand, so still kind of salty about that, and I'm probably going to ruminate on it forever. But what is this? Oh, what have I got myself into? Oh boy, did I miss that big time. So this kind of pipe thing that you see is supposed to go up under every single one of these things. So I have to undo shifter linkage, heater, core hoses, fuel lines, radiator hoses, all that kind of stuff, because it sits up against the block. You can see that little tab right there is supposed to sit up in here, and then this tucks in back behind all of that. And then I think this goes to the oil housing, like the oil filter housing, can't remember, but At the end, there will be a spot that doesn't have 3 plugs, and I will find out exactly where it went. I've been doing everything I possibly can to not have to tackle this vacuum mess over here, but it's crazy how just jam-packed and complicated these cars are for the time period. I mean, there's literally no room for anything. Look at the mess of hoses up inside here, back here. I mean, there's hoses on hoses on hoses on intakes, on brackets. It's just absolutely absurd. I don't know how much justice just poking around with the camera does here, but it is absolutely insane. So I think it's finally time that I have to tackle the vacuum stuff. I have to put the clutch booster line on over this, put this Y pipe on, and then it's time to tackle that stuff. Okay, it's getting late. I don't have the exhaust connected, but pretty much everything is good to go. So I'm going to throw the battery terminal on and then fill it up with fluids. Usually you get like a click or a beep or something, or a solenoid, but nothing there. So fluid, only 4.8 quarts of oil. I guess I'm just used to like stuff like this over here. 10 to 12 is like a normal change for my cars, so this feels like absolutely nothing. Cheap oil change though. Well, I think it's time to give it a shot. I unplugged the injectors, so I'm gonna crank it over for a minute, try to build some oil pressure, and then just go for it, I guess. Why not? Can't remember if you have to put clutch down to start this one. You do not. Okay, so I'm gonna stand out here. Not sure why that tried to fire. Pump was probably dry for sitting for so long. I was honestly kind of worried about that a little bit too, but it seems like it's pushing some fuel up. So now that I have fuel pressure, I'm gonna check for leaks. Looks good. Oh boy, I'm so nervous. Oh, it is running so smooth. Like incredibly smooth. I don't know how or why. It's never, like even when it was freshly built, it never, like last time cranked over like that. That is crazy. I'm gonna go check for leaks really quick and then maybe try to get it up to temperature, fill up this fluid. And then maybe after 5-10 minutes, I'll change the oil and do a little inspection. Okay, so, oh my God. Nope, that just made it worse. I worked way later than I expected to. I needed to drive all the way home after this, and car ran. Nothing stand out that's like wrong with it or anything. So I'm gonna go home, and then 2 days or so, I'll have the rest of my parts, my axles and all that kind of stuff. I'll replace those crush washers, which isn't the easiest thing in the front when I have to take the serpentine belt and the AC off and all that kind of stuff. But I don't really care because everything else is working out just fine. God, I look like hell. I've been under the car all day. It's like 90 degrees, but that wasn't long enough for me to want to change the oil, so I'm just going to kind of keep it in there. And then we'll probably run it for another 15 minutes or so, get it to temperature when I get those washers, and then get the rest on there and go for a drive. And unfortunately, that's probably where we're going to hang it up for the night. I have to wait for a couple more parts before taking the next step, so if you're enjoying the video and you want to follow along the rest of the project, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will have new videos out soon.